My name is Jeremy Walton, and this is the cinematography of Top Gun Maverick. Let's go! This has been a long time coming. Haven't seen the film yet, but there have been plenty of articles about the project over the last few years. Can you believe that? We're talking years. I want to cover how the production went about filming the new movie, but if you want to see some behind the scenes on how they shot the original Top Gun featuring a very young Tom Cruise, then you better stick around for that. I'm ready, I hope you're ready. Let's discuss the 2022 film Top Gun Maverick, directed by Joseph Kosinski and cinematography by Claudio Miranda. I've been a fan of the original movie since I was a kid, so after watching the trailer for Maverick, you can see a lot has changed. You're right in the pilot seat and we're watching something new, a new perspective to what a fighter pilot experiences, and it's all on the big screen for us to enjoy. This wasn't by any means a mistake. This was in the works for a long time, and Tom Cruise was really passionate about how this was going to be done. I wasn't ready to make a sequel until we had a special story, worthy of a sequel, and until technology evolved so that we could delve deeper into the experience of a fighter pilot. We worked with the Navy and the Top Gun school to formulate how to shoot it practically. Because if we're going to do it, we're going to fly in the F-18s. Now, why was he so adamant about shooting this in the actual F-18s? Well, in the original film that was released in 1986, they had the same thoughts. Tony Scott really wanted to film as much as possible in the airplanes, and they did externally mount 6 cameras on the F-14 Tomcats, in the front and rear, to really give you an interesting POV of the dogfights. These newly designed camera mounts for the Tomcats had the ability to withstand the stress of the fighter plane, but had to be okayed by the aircraft manufacturer and the Navy to be sure they passed engineering and safety specifications. They also used a Learjet mounted with a camera to fly alongside the jets, which added to the great aerial footage. For inside the cockpit, they referred to the gear as special instrument military cameras from Photosonics. Couldn't find a whole lot of info on these cameras, but apparently they were small enough to fit inside the cockpit. Tom Cruise and the rest of the cast had the opportunity to fly in the F-14s, and it didn't go so well. They all got sick, or at least looked too sick to have any usable footage for the film, so that was axed pretty quickly. What they had to do was use a cockpit of a salvaged F-14 and using an airplane hangar to film in. They had to rig up a gimbal and use rear screen projection for the background. They also had a 10K light on a ring that they could spin to act like the sun. A great idea for the time, and I think for Top Gun it really worked. But now when I watch those scenes, after realizing what they were doing, it does look a little odd, especially what we can accomplish now with CGI. So it makes sense for Maverick to really capture everything in camera while flying, and that's exactly what they did. If you want even more info about Top Gun and how they created the opening scene of the movie, go watch the video I did, Filters in Film, In Camera versus Post, and I'll cover the techniques used by Tony Scott. The producer of Top Gun, Jerry Bruckheimer, recalls his conversation with Cruise when discussing what the actors went through while filming Top Gun in 1986. Their eyes were rolling back in their heads, they were throwing up, so Tom remembered that, and since he's an avid pilot, he said, "We've got to train them to be able to handle the G-forces." But if you're thinking Tom Cruise was actually flying the F-18, which they did a pretty good job of making it look that way, I got bad news for you. The Navy wouldn't let him fly an F-18, but he flies a P-51 in the movie and he flies helicopters. He can do just about anything in an airplane. For the actors, they had to do a significant amount of training. This wasn't your average walk in the park. This was a big commitment on the part of the actors because it's serious training and something I would have loved to do. When you're pulling heavy G's, it compresses your spine, your skull. It makes some people delirious. Some people can't handle it. So I had to get them up to be able to sustain high G's. They were pulling up to 8 G's, and what you're seeing on their faces is something they could never do on a sound stage. That's not acting, that's real life. And they had to go through a lot to be able to not only handle the maneuvers, but then to act because, yeah, you're in a movie and you're trying to tell a story. If that wasn't enough, there were a few other things you can't forget about. We had to teach the actors about lighting, about cinematography, about editing. I had to teach them how to turn the cameras on and off, and about camera angles and lenses. We didn't have unlimited time in these jets. The director Kosinski and cinematographer Miranda have worked with Cruise before on the 2013 film Oblivion, which I really enjoyed. But I might be a little biased. I just wanted to mention they have collaborated before, and there is a bunch of behind the scenes for that film, with them utilizing 21 projectors instead of a green screen with 270 degrees of coverage, which was a pretty big deal back then. My point is, technology has been intertwined with these filmmakers for a while. I went to school for engineering. I thought I was going to be an aerospace engineer. Technology was something I always had a handle on, but for me, it starts with the story. On Top Gun Maverick, it was all about how do we get movie cameras inside an F-18 Super Hornet with Tom Cruise. That was the real challenge for the film, and based on what we discussed, it was something they had to do and get right. Because of their relationship with Sony, they worked on developing an IMAX quality camera that was compact, about 2 inches deep. You can have a look on Sony's website and check out the Rialto to see what I'm talking about. The great thing about this camera was the sensor could be separated from the recorder, which allowed the filmmakers to mount 6 of these cameras inside the cockpit and 4 on the outside of the airplane. This gave you incredible coverage and something that wasn't possible years back when filming Top Gun. That, to me, was our technology breakthrough on this movie. It's just a really fun way to work when you're getting it all in camera. Now, it makes sense why they wanted to cram all those cameras in the cockpit. I don't think they had many options to do a retake. So you have 6 cameras running, all shooting 6K. Well, not quite, I will get to that, but that's a lot of footage to work with, and out of a long 12 to 14 hour day, they were only getting about 30 seconds of usable footage. It just took a very long time to get it all, months and months of aerial shooting. We shot as much footage as the 3 Lord of the Rings movies combined. I think it was about 800 hours of footage. Okay, speaking of 6K, there was some confusion. I don't think it matters much, but I'll mention it. The cameras inside the cockpit weren't actually shooting 6K. I guess the raw recorders couldn't fit, so they were shooting 4K. Remember, this was 3 years ago and the Sony Venice 2 wasn't out yet. If you haven't heard me talk about this before, I'm always mentioning different cameras, resolution, and lenses matching. Most of the time, I don't think anyone would ever notice, so when you go watch the film, let me know if 6K or 4K was ever thought during the dogfights. I also wanted to mention lenses. If we go to IMDb, you can see the list right here. The interesting part of this is, again, inside the cockpit. They were using Voigtlander lenses. They weren't using incredibly expensive cinema lenses for those shots. Do you think everything will match? I think it'll be fine. Remember that when you're choosing your lenses for your next project. Because I mentioned the Learjet that was capturing aerial footage back in the day, I also wanted to show you the clip of Cinejet's L39 filming the Super Hornet as it goes into full afterburner. That shot alone should make you want to see the movie. Back then, things looked a bit different, but from the planning to dogfighting and how the filmmakers wanted to capture the airplanes and put you in the seat of a fighter jet, things are, for the most part, the same. When you hear Tony Scott discussing how he wanted to shoot the film, it really echoes how Cruise and Kaczynski wanted to film Maverick. They wanted to make something even more entertaining with the latest technology. And looking at what they were working with, watching the trailer to Top Gun Maverick, it's looking like it'll be one wild ride, and I'm looking forward to watching it on the big screen. Well, there you have it, the cinematography of Top Gun Maverick. Hope you enjoyed the video. Hit that like button because there's definitely more on the way. Subscribe so you don't miss out. Leave a comment if you want to. Until next time, it's a wrap.